Okay, now this I think was, Exile Con 2023. This was already last year. I never watched it because I'm not super hyped for Path of Exile 2. I'll play it for sure because I feel like it's going to be a lot more approachable than going into Path of Exile right now. But
welcome to Path of Exile 2. We'd like to start off by showing some of the gameplay of Act 3, one of the 6 acts in PoE 2's campaign.
Also, pardon me, I like the fact that they were trying to rush out Path of Exile 2 to meet the Diablo 4 launch, and then the Diablo 4 launch bombed so hard that they were just like, oh, thank God, we can just take our time making this better.
We're starting here in the jungle depths. Act 3 is set in the ruins of the Vaal civilization, which fell thousands of years ago. Jungle has taken over their former once great cities, and we'll be exploring it using one of our 6 new character classes, called the Monk. In PoE 1, we had 1 character class for each of the combinations of Strength, Dexterity, and Intelligence. When looking at the design of PoE 2, though, we realized that many of the new skills that we were trying to design just didn't really fit thematically with the existing classes that we have. Being a spellcaster with a bear form makes sense for Strength Int, but it doesn't really sound like something that a Templar would do. We realized that since we had new mechanics for every attribute combination, it actually made sense to design new character classes to explore the new themes. In PoE 2, every attribute combination has 2 classes associated with it.
Hell yeah.
Strength Int has the Templar or the Druid, on Dexterity you have the Ranger or the more spear-focused Huntress, and on Dex Int you have the Shadow and the Monk, which Mark is playing here. Each class has its own 3 ascendancies that let you further specialize the class in the way that only that class has access to, but they both start at the same location in the passive tree. Quest rewards you're offered on the 2 variants are tailored to the class, but of course, this is PoE. You can still mix and match anything to your heart's content.
Sounds dope.
Looks like we've come across the boss for this area. In PoE 2, every area of the campaign contains a boss of at least this difficulty. That's over 100 bosses to fight as you make your way through the campaign, and they all have unique mechanics to learn.
Get destroyed, Diablo 4, like Jesus Christ. Welcome back, GNAC.
As you've seen from watching Mark fighting, the melee combat in PoE 2 has a very different feel than before.
Yeah, it's way faster.
A lot of things to add mobility to combat.
I like how they
in PoE 2 has some
I like how they took the dodge roll from Diablo 4 like just blatantly. Which honestly I felt was really disappointing in Diablo 4, like how the dodge didn't actually give you iframes. It was like, did you guys ever play a Souls-like? Imagine playing a Souls-like without getting iframes. It makes no goddamn sense, Diablo 4.
Some kind of movement built into it. But the Monk in particular is a melee fighter who specializes in mobility over brute strength.
Hey Chronodus, watching the Diablo 4 killer? Yeah, I am. Dude, the fact that it's gonna be free as well, like, I don't gotta spend 150 bucks. Or sorry, like $230 because the DLC for Diablo is an additional 100 bucks. Yeah, he does get iframes when he dodge rolls. Wow. He seems to be able to spam the roll pretty aggressively as well. Maybe he doesn't get iframes, but maybe the fact that he can dodge like indefinitely would be where the balance comes in.
If Mark has been playing, you might have noticed these blue markers over enemies. Mark has a skill equipped called Killing Palm. Whenever an enemy has a blue indicator over it, it means that the monster has low enough life to cull with Killing Palm. Successfully executing the cull will give you a power charge. This is an important skill for the Monk, since many of his skills interact with power charges. One of the great things about the skill is that it has a built-in dash forward, which makes it much easier to target the skill at the right point when you need it.
That's really cool.
We've done a lot of work in PoE 2 to make using skills like this feel satisfying. If you're accidentally targeting...
Like the fact that he actually uses the palm to dash in, and then he still has his dodge ready, and then he rolls back out, like that's actually so smooth compared to Diablo. The only thing is I don't know enough about Path of Exile's endgame to say, is it just a stun lock simulator? Because that's what Diablo 4 was.
Slightly off the monster, the skill will automatically lock on to the cullable target, and will even do a small amount of pathfinding around obstacles. We really want to make sure that when you've got an opportunity to use the skill, nothing is going to get in your way.
Nice.
Once you have some power charges, you need some skills to power up. A great
The end game is not stun lock. Okay, good. Because that was the worst thing about Diablo 4 is it was just like, I don't know what idiot designed Diablo 4, but my god.
follow-up is Falling Thunder. Falling Thunder without a power charge just creates a relatively small lightning AoE in front of you. But
Yeah, this game will be dope as hell.
It turns into a pack clearer with a large number of extra projectiles. One thing you'll notice here is that like almost every melee skill in PoE 2, Falling Thunder has a bit of extra movement built in just in case you need it. Using the skill within range and you'll do a flip in place, but use it at a larger range and your character will move forward while executing it, getting you into position without any time penalty.
I'll actually play this.
You also get a short
Yeah, dude, legit. The other thing too with Path of Exile is it's free to play and it's just cosmetics.
period to redirect your target. Notice how you can start the skill facing one way, then whip the mouse sideways to land the skill in a different direction? In order to get power charges, you're going to first need to get some lower life monsters into a cullable range. You've got a few options. If you want to charge right in, Whirling Assault is a good option.
I mean, maybe one day Diablo 4 will end up getting good, but nah.
Hit, but it covers a lot of ground. And notice how you can turn as you do it? Generally speaking, you never lose control of your character in PoE 2. If you make a turn at the right time, you can get a couple of extra hits in on the monsters, getting them into range of your cull.
Jesus, dude.
Palm, then finish off the rest of the pack with your Falling Thunder.
That's insane what he just described. Like, basically, your animations will dynamically shift based on like where you move your character. So you can do like a swing right attack, and if you move your character around the enemy, he'll like hit it a couple times. Like that's the kind of meta level of gaming that they needed in Diablo 4. Yeah, I'm not like gonna say exactly, Val. Like I'm not holding my breath for this either. It's just gonna be like when it comes out, I'll play it.
We've now entered the Vaal Mechanarium. This is the place where the Vaal built the various constructs.
But I'm not like, oh my god.
Civilization.
Now this is a find! A Vaal ruin that hasn't been looted? I wonder why nobody's been in here before.
Quite a few people, Chronodus, are actually saying that they want WASD movement. Even GNAC was saying it earlier. So it's kind of surprising they don't put it in these games, especially when controller support exists. And that's kind of essentially the same as WASD anyways.
One useful feature that we've added is the ability to call in NPCs to where you are, to give you more information, help you with quest objectives, and so that you don't have to always go back to town. In this case, we'll call in Alva to find out what to do.
Nice.
This
Also, Mind Killers sounds like Clone Drone and Danger Zone in terms of dynamic animations and hitboxes. That is an old call out, dude. I think you and I are probably the only two people on this earth who even know what that game is.
mechanism. If powered with a small soul core, it could open that door. There should definitely be soul cores somewhere around here. They had to power these constructs somehow.
Okay,
As Alva
Buzz,
said, we need
Jesus.
to find a soul core to open this door. Let's explore. If you want to shave off some life without getting too close to some of the more dangerous monsters, a good option is Wind Blast. Wind Blast also
know.
doesn't do too much damage.
Please stop.
It keeps the enemies back. The closer they are, the farther they're pushed back. So it's a great option for keeping smaller but high damage enemies at bay. Note that the bigger the enemy is, the less they'll be pushed back. So trying to push back some giants isn't going to be effective.
That's neat.
And there's the soul core. Let's get back to the door.
That's a nice little touch. Does that mean I can't be pushed back as far if I'm a bigger boy? Because you know I'm just being the thick, heavy boy. Warrior. Actually, it depends. I don't know what class I'll end up being. I don't know what classes there are. Mage is actually usually a lot of fun. But seems like they've taken some huge strides in making melee a lot better.
Consider me impressed. I'll keep investigating in here. Bring me in if you find anything else.
If you need to defeat tougher enemies, it might be time to break out some of the ice skills in the monk's arsenal. Glacial Cascade creates a wave of ice that moves slowly in front of the player. It's pretty ineffective against fast-moving monsters because most of the damage occurs right at the end of the wave, and so a lot of monsters will just walk right by it. But if you can find a way to make a monster stop at just the right place, it can be very effective.
That's pretty
In order
damn
to
cool.
do that, you probably want to freeze monsters.
Graphics actually
But
look
there's a
great.
few different tools to do this. A fairly simple option is to get right in the monster's face with Ice Strike. Ice Strike doesn't do too much damage on the first two hits, but attack 3 times in sequence and you can get off a combo.
was neat.
It has a much higher chance to freeze. Get in there with that freeze, then roll back and finish the job with a Glacial Cascade.
Oh, there's a Necromancer in Path of Exile 1? Is there going to be one in Path of Exile 2? That's interesting. I didn't know there was a Necromancer. I might actually, like... I'm kind of interested. Because I keep screwing up the Necromancer in Diablo, bro.
Now, remember how Glacial Cascade had that extra damaging spike at the end? If you've hit a frozen enemy with that spike, it shatters the ice on the enemy and does a devastating amount of damage.
Oh, that's cool. So combination attacks. I like that.
Oh yeah, I just casually mentioned rolling back before. Did I forget to mention that in PoE 2 we added a dodge roll to every character? Just press spacebar at any time to roll. There's no cooldown, no limitations. It even has a bit of built-in pathfinding so you don't get stuck on things.
Damn.
When you dodge roll, you're not invulnerable. If something hits you, you're gonna feel it, but...
Okay, so there isn't iframes. There you go.
Most things will not hit you. That's because while rolling, projectiles and melee strikes will always miss.
Huh? Projectiles and melee strikes? So magic will still hit you? He literally said you don't get iframes, but you don't take damage. Like, what?
You'll have to roll out of the way of a slam that has AoE, but anyone swinging a sword or throwing a fireball is going to miss.
Okay.
Now, another really important function of the dodge roll is that it lets you cancel out of almost any skill at any time. This makes it so you don't feel like you're getting stuck doing a long animation when something is about to hit you.
Thank God. Animation canceling is like... This game is already better than Diablo 4, and it pisses me off. Because even the fact that they had the animation where you can move around while you're dodge rolling is like already such a big change. Because in Diablo, it's literally just, oh, dodge where your mouse is pointing. And you can't do any variation, and it doesn't give you iframes or anything. It's useless. That's crazy.
It really changes how skills with longer attack and cast times play, and it makes dodge roll feel like a very reliable way to avoid attacks. So, that's one way to get out of the way of damage, but the monk specializes in mobility, so it makes sense that he would have a few more. Wave of Frost is one of our new attacks with a retreat built right in. You move backwards and throw out a cold attack.
Oh, that's a different ability? Okay.
The great thing about this is it puts you at a good distance to follow up with Glacial Cascade and do a whole pile of damage.
That's pretty cool.
Hey look, another soul core. Another skill you can use to get some extra freeze is Shattering Palm. Shattering Palm...
Gameplay is fake because they don't have the map open 24/7. Please tell me there's a mini map that I can just put in the corner, because that's the worst thing about these games, man, is none of them have a goddamn mini map. Why do I always gotta have a map in the middle of my screen taking up all of the gameplay?
Palm is another palm strike that puts a small ice bomb on your target. Kill or deal enough damage to the target and the bomb will explode, doing some damage and a significant freeze. It's a great option against bosses where the wave of ice might not be enough to get that freeze off. But you really
cool.
want to get that Glacial Cascade damage bonus.
Get back.
Yeah, so he's basically got all the blizzard abilities from the wizard in Diablo, but it's put in the monk, which is kind of weird, kind of cool. I don't know if I've ever seen like a melee ice character before.
The final skill we're going to show
at least
you
not in
today
this
is
type of game.
Flicker Strike. It's a monk skill now, and another skill that consumes power charges. If you've played PoE 1, you know what to expect.
Yeah, I haven't, so I don't know what he's
It's a
talking
great
about.
finisher for tough boss fights, and it looks pretty impressive too.
That? Because that was pretty cool.
Your demise.
Another door. I wonder what could be in there.
Like the giant mechs, whatever they're called from Core Keeper in the Sunken Cities. They even activated the same. Flicker teleports you to an enemy and kills it, and it chains attack. Oh, cool.
In order to take down this boss, we're going to need all the tools in the monk's arsenal, especially the combo of Freeze and Glacial Cascade. If you're a PoE 1 player, you might think that you can't really rely on Freeze because there's so many bosses that are immune to it, but in PoE 2, that's changing significantly. In PoE 1, Freeze is a binary mechanic. An attack freezes the target, or it doesn't. What this basically means is that in PoE 1, we were forced to add freeze immunity to many bosses, because freeze just trivialized them. Because of that, freezing was something you only really used while pack clearing, and not something you could rely on as a core part of your build for boss fight. Here we 2 though, all crowd control mechanics now have internal meters that allow you to build up to a freeze or stun. Or
They took okay, so they stole the internal for blah. Like the way that poison and status effects work in Elden Ring. That's actually huge. Why the hell don't other companies like do stuff like that? That's actually insane.
whatever other CC mechanic you might be using. It's a little bit like poise from games like Elden Ring, though the meter seems to be a lot smaller.
Even says the same thing. Hell yeah, dude. I like how these guys are actual, like, these devs are gamers, you know, not like Blizzard where it's just a bunch of CEOs.
When you freeze an enemy, it increases the amount of freeze you need to do another freeze, but the increased difficulty bleeds away slowly. More freeze will always let you freeze the boss more often, but this system means it will not get out of control in party play or interact badly with
Yeah,
other
so it
CCs,
scales the same as poison
allowing us to
effects
let
and
these
stuff.
kinds of mechanics
Damn.
actually work against all bosses.
That's really cool. That's really good. Imagine taking a mechanic from like a Souls-like game to put in your isometric dungeon crawler, just because the mechanic makes sense. Like that's so big brain. I love it. The boss is so much more cinematic than anything in Diablo 4. Like, what is going on, dude? This is like alternate universe where an indie studio is actually better than the AAA billionaire company. I mean, I guess they're not an indie studio anymore, but Jesus, dude. Yeah, I'm actually hyped for this now. So I wonder if there will be builds where you build up more status effect faster. The thing is, he's
Blackjaw has dropped a consumable quest item.
you can tell like he's not got god stats either. It's not like he's super high, like overly weak or anything. But he could die if he wasn't paying attention, so that is pretty neat.
Flame Core. It's a permanent +10 to Spirit.
No.
In PoE 2, we really want to make sure that you feel rewarded for exploration. It wouldn't be much good if we made all these awesome optional bosses if we didn't have something great to find for killing them.
Like Diablo 4?
One of the things you might find for killing a boss is a permanent stat bonus to your character.
Your end comes.
I prefer more than just stat bonuses, but honestly, I'll take that over the crappy drops in Diablo 4. I'm sorry, I know I'm hitting Diablo 4 pretty hard, but it was so disappointing to me, like that game. Like it had the worst end game of any Diablo game I've ever played. In the live showcase, the dev that was playing actually did get murked by one of the bosses. Crowd was cheering him on. It was awesome. That actually sounds pretty dope. Yeah, I guess they're gamers, right? Like that's the difference. Is imagine that. Imagine a game actually being developed by people actually who play the game and experience the game and know what they need to work on. Oh God, he's actually getting his butt kicked. Dope, man. Hell yeah. I've heard the end game of Path of Exile 1 is really good too, so suffice to say this game's probably gonna come out swinging. That's what kind of happened with Path of Exile 1 as well, though, is when Diablo 3 came out, more of the hardcore Diablo fans moved to Path of Exile. I played Path of Exile. I enjoyed it.
To help us with this next area, we're going to call in a sorceress. Mark's
Nice.
friend, Octavian, is going to send a friend invite, which we're going to accept. And then they can play together. The sorceress is the new intelligence-focused character in PoE 2. While the witch focuses more on occult magic and summoning, the sorceress is themed around pure elemental destruction. Let's have a look at how she plays.
So there's gonna be a witch? Because if I can be a summoner build, that's what I'm doing.
largest soul core I've ever seen. With this, we could power the canal systems. But it isn't
Path of Exile 1's end game is pretty much however you want to play. You can do dungeon crawling, boss killing, and even tower defense. Hell yeah, dude. That's what I like in games, is when you're not just limited to one gameplay aspect, because then otherwise it's like Trove, where you're stuck doing delves all goddamn day. Oh, the witch is... Okay, so he's saying that the witch is in Path of Exile 1. I hope she's in 2, because... Yes, please.
There is still latent energy in this machinarium from its ancient operation. These lines in the stonework should lead to generators. You might need to find some more soul cores to spin them up, but...
This is a pretty significant amount of gameplay, too.
Condition. Maybe the golems have been maintaining it. In any case, it should still function. We'll have to remove...
I wonder how big your parties can go to.
Of course, but that shouldn't be a problem.
We have some skills here that you'll probably recognize if you've played PoE 1 before, but they feel a bit different to play now. Spark is great in these tight passages since it bounces around. We've added a Pierce support gem to really allow it to hit an entire room of targets.
Oh wow.
For a more single target focused skill, Arc is a good choice. It does more damage to the first target you hit.
Yeah, this is more like what I remember from Path of Exile. So much crap going on screen that you can barely tell what's happening.
If you find yourself surrounded, it might be good to use Ice Nova. It hits all enemies around you and slows them down with chill.
Wow, dude, they just blatant. They just don't even care anymore. They're just like, you know what? Diablo flopped. Let's just start stealing all of their skills.
Personal isn't the ideal place for a sorceress to be. He doesn't have the defenses of a more melee-oriented character. If you want to help with the sorceress's weak melee defense, though, you could use Arctic Armor. In PoE 2, Arctic Armor is a buff that builds up as you stand still. You can see the ice crystals forming around the character.
That's interesting.
They'll drop off if you walk. When monsters hit you, they take cold damage and build up to a freeze, so it's a great defense. Just be careful. You have to be standing still for a little while to get the full effect, so trying to stutter step isn't the best strategy.
That's a really interesting mechanic.
Is an ongoing buff, but did you notice it didn't reserve any mana? How does that work? Well, we were pretty sick of the fact that in PoE 1 basically every character was playing with no mana pool, so we decided to change the way that reservation works. There's a new resource in PoE 2 called Spirit. Spirit is a dedicated resource you can use for ongoing effects like Arctic Armor, Heralds, Auras, or even Minions. Everyone starts with 100 Spirit, which is enough for most ongoing effects. But if you want more than one effect, you're going to need some more Spirit. Spirit is available on mods from items and on the passive tree. But if you're willing to give up your offhand slot, the easiest way to get it is by holding a scepter.
That also is a very, very smart mechanic. Are you kidding me? So basically, in order to have passive buffs, it takes spirit instead of mana. And in order to use those abilities, you have to trade off some damage or whatever with your offhand item. That's really interesting. I don't mean to gush about all these mechanics. It's just really, really smart game design. Like, I'm not used to this.
Damage you're dealing, you can use a Frost Bomb. It places a bomb on the ground that reduces the enemy's cold resistance while it's ticking down. It's a great opportunity to use some cold skills before it explodes. And speaking of cold skills, a great skill to use on monsters with the slower cold resistance is Comet. This is a new skill in PoE 2, and it hits pretty damn hard.
Yeah, it's called Meteor in Diablo.
It costs a lot of mana and has a really long cast time, but it's worth the wait. It does a devastating amount of damage. To help get you out of danger, your character moves back slightly as it casts. It's pretty hard to hit a fast-moving opponent, but it's great on tougher enemies that stand still, or even a larger pack if you're further away and can predict where they're going to move.
This is legit just what Diablo 4 needed to be.
If you wanted a mana casting too many of those, I guess in an emergency you could cast your free-to-cast Fireball.
Like 100%.
Where did that come from, you ask? Well, this is a great opportunity to explain the way we've changed caster weapons in PoE 2. Now in PoE 1, caster weapons had a default melee attack that nobody used, and because they had that, they also had a bunch of attack mods that would spawn in them that were useless to a caster. In PoE 2, we wanted to clean that up, so now each staff comes with a built-in free-to-cast spell. Just put it on and spam to your heart's content. Now this particular staff is the base type that you get right on the starting beach, and it's quite likely that you're going to outgrow it. So that's why we have a lot of staves with more utility-focused powers for casters to use. Here we have a crystal staff. It's got a pretty cool built-in spell called Unleash. Using it slams your staff on the ground, and will allow you to triple cast whatever you cast with your next spell. Now of course you're probably going to want to use that with something powerful, and Comet is a great option.
Wow.
You'll notice that Unleash is one of the few skills in PoE 2 with a cooldown. In general, we really try to avoid using cooldowns because we really hate the feeling that combat is just waiting to be able to use your next skill. But it does make sense for Unleash since it's free to cast, and it's something we want you to be using situationally anyway. Now, if you're facing something tough, you might want to try out Mana Tempest. Mana Tempest creates a circle of power in which your character literally hovers over the ground. While in the circle, your mana drains, but it powers up all of your spells. Lightning projectiles fork, beams chain further, and you'll also do a lot more damage.
Like, clearly these are gamers making video games. Like, legit, dude. Like, it's just straight up insane. And I like how they're acknowledging and building upon the weaknesses of Path of Exile 1. Not that I have enough experience to know what those problems are, but just the way that he's being so candid about it is something very surprising for the gaming industry. Like, you don't see that out of many studios outside of like the big boys. So
with all of these skills,
yeah.
There's a great combo to try. First, cast Frostbomb to reduce the target's cold resistance. Then use Mana Tempest to increase your damage. Follow it with Unleash, and then triple cast the Comet to do a truly insane amount of damage.
Even the fact that they're showing off these combos and stuff, and it's like they're not bothering like trying to sell this to the casual dad, you know? And they're just showing like, hey gamers, check this out.
This rare monster dropped an uncut gem. This is a good opportunity to talk about how skill gems drop in PoE 2. Instead of dropping specific gems, you can find uncut gems. Just right-click on them and pick whatever skill you want. The gem will come pre-leveled to the level of the area that dropped it, so it's a lot easier to change between skills in PoE 2.
Wow.
This time, I think it might be cool to grab one of our meta gems. Meta gems are skills that can have other skills socketed into them, changing how they work. In this case, we're going to select Cast on Shock. Now, let's equip this thing in the skill screen and choose a spell to trigger with it.
Okay, so they're basically taking the Diablo 3 way that the skills were developed, which they, for some reason, scrapped in Diablo 4. Basically, you be able to change how your spells cast based on runes in Diablo 3 or whatever it was.
I think Comet might be fun. Because Cast on Shock reserves Spirit, we'll need to first disable our Arctic armor. We have to decide if we'd rather have the extra defense or the extra offense of the Cast on Shock using our Spirit. In PoE 2, trigger gems use a system of filling up cast time on each trigger. Basically, if a skill has a short cast time, then we'll trigger it really often. If it's got a long cast time, like this Comet here, it will take a lot longer to trigger. You can see up the top left that there's a counter that says how far it is until your next trigger.
Wow.
And there you are. Using Cast on Shock, we'll automatically cast Comet whenever we're using our lightning skills.
Dude, that's actually like so big brain. Oh, is there more gameplay?
Time to power it up.
Like beyond just this trailer that showed some of the other classes? Because yeah, I'm down to watch more. If they're shorter. Otherwise I might skip through them. Because I'd like to see the other classes.
To the Mechanarium, all the constructs are coming back to life. We'll need to fight them on the way back to the charged Soul Core.
Dude, that's actually really cool. That's like
PoE 1 players might have noticed is that this character has both ice and lightning spells. That's pretty inefficient, isn't it? It's a big no-no for most builds because any specialization into cold or lightning isn't going to affect the other element. And generic elemental damage increases are not going to be as powerful as focusing on a single element. Well, in PoE 2 we have another major new system to introduce to solve these kinds of problems, and it starts with weapon swap. Now in PoE 1, weapon swap isn't really used much for its originally intended use case. We imagined that people were going to be swapping in and out between different weapons to deal with whatever situation they were in.
So is this gonna be like the auto weapon swapping that the Barb did in Diablo 4? Because if so, that's insane.
People just don't do that at all. And a large reason for that is because it's really awkward to do. In PoE 2, we wanted to solve that. The staff Octavian is using here has an ice mod on it that makes it great for when he's using his ice spells. We would also like to be able to make sure that the build works just as well for his lightning spells. If Octavian equips his previous staff in his second weapon set, you can see that it appears on the character's back. Now we're going to open up the skills screen. If Octavian opens up the skill options for his lightning skills, you can see here that you can choose which weapon sets are usable with each skill.
Honestly, I got nothing. These devs, like, they know what they're doing. So that was a mechanic. The only class that had that in Diablo 4 was the Barb, which it was a game changer. Really, really good. The fact that this is going to be a mechanic on all of the classes means that, like, they're solving not only the issue with Path of Exile, but the issue with so many of these isometric dungeon crawlers, and video games as a whole struggle with something like this all the time. Because even in Diablo 4, if you were playing as a sorcerer, it was always most beneficial to spec into one element, whether it be fire, void, ice, whatever. But now they're literally just showing, oh, you can just... Yep.
First, we uncheck set
That's
1
awesome.
being used by his lightning skills. Then we go through the cold skills and turn those off with his lightning weapon.
Kind of wish it would do it automatically, but it's
Now, when
nice
you use
that
Spark, the character will automatically switch to the lightning staff on his back and then use the skill.
it's nice that it has
Octavian
that amount of
uses Ice Nova, the
customization.
character automatically switches over to his ice staff before using it. Figure each skill for which set to use, or both if you don't mind which. There's a very short time penalty to switching, so it can be good to leave some skills on both sets if it doesn't matter which weapon set you're using.
Okay, so there is
But
a
we still have the
small...
problem of passives. Wouldn't it be nice if we could specialize in both cold and lightning passives on the character? Well, in Here We Too, you can. We're on the passive skill screen here, and you can see that we're close to both a cold and a lightning cluster. At the top right of the screen, you can see where we have some weapon set specific points to allocate. If Octavian holds shift, he can allocate set 1 to the cold passives, and then allocate set 2 to the lightning passives.
Okay.
Now check this out. As we weapon swap, our passive tree changes from one build to the other automatically.
This game hurts my brain. The amount of, like, builds... dear God.
Whenever we cast the appropriate spell, the character's passives reconfigure on the fly to the correct build for that spell.
Jesus.
Now you can't do this with every passive on your tree. Only points granted from skill books will allow this kind of dual specialization. So you can't change from a mace slamming warrior into a fire elementalist with the press of a button, but it certainly increases the number of options you have for builds.
Like, the
There's a huge
builds in
number of
Path of...
places where the system can shine.
The builds in Path of Exile were already insane. But the fact that they're really pushing that, like, Diablo 4 stuff, where it's like, yeah, exactly, Zero. Like, build the character to fit your playstyle. Like, that is insane.
You could augment your Dagger Shadow build with traps, or have a great curse setup on your Witch in one spec, and then move to your Chaos debuff spells with the other. It really opens up your options.
Just wow, man. Bravo. I'm actually hyped for this now. Like, I didn't know it had this many, like, complex mechanics.
Another fun meta gem to try out is called Barrier Invocation. This works a little bit like the trigger gem I talked about before, but this one charges up as your energy shield is hit by monsters. I think we might like to put an Ice Nova in this one. The more energy shield you lose, the more charge builds up until the point where you're able to cast the skill you socketed instantly. Lose some energy shield, and then at just the right time invoke Ice Nova to cast all the stacked up versions in one cast. If you keep losing shield, you'll build up even more charge for even more casts, so it's a great defensive option in an emergency.
The fact that they're making it so streamlined too, like, obviously the depth of the builds already hurts my head just thinking about how many options there's gonna be. But the fact that it's more streamlined means I can actually try and make the character that I feel like making instead of just having to follow some guide, you know? That's what was always so, like, off-putting about Path of Exile 1 is that it felt like if you,
back at the charge soul.
it felt like if you weren't playing with the proper build that you would look up online, like, you would just be penalized. And so it just kind of ruined the fun for me.
All we have to do now is take it. How hard could that be?
Oh dear. Now we just have to remove it from that construct. I'll give that to you.
That's a really cool boss, actually. Damn, dude! red nuke. Crazy. How many bosses did he say they had? Like 150 or something ridiculous? I'm sure they're not all going to be winners, but the ones that they've shown so far are great. Like, holy crap. Insanely well televised attacks, all unique televised attacks. Like, that spell being a bullet hell, like, this is so freaking cool, man. I want to see Warrior. I want to see the Summoner. I want to see all the classes now. Yeah, the graphics are really good. It being free too, Bobby, means you could at least probably play it on the Steam Deck, because I don't think this is going to be on console, right? I'm so down for this game, though. Like, I was obviously gonna play it, but now it's like I'm actually hyped for it. It is gonna be on console, GNAC? Oh, hell yeah, okay. And crossplay? There you go, Bobby. Let's get it. Path of Exile 1 is
Path of Exile 2.
on console as well. Oh, okay. Hell yeah, man.
Is likely to be, when is the beta? Well, we're in our last year of development, finishing acts, adding skills, and balancing everything. The closed beta will start on June 7th, 2024. Path of Exile 2 has been a long time coming, and we're incredibly excited to be near the finish line.
Oh, this game comes out next year. Oh, okay. Can we sign up for the beta? Is it good odds of getting in? I'm assuming not. Either way, hell yeah, dude. I'm excited. That looks dope as hell. Thanks for linking that. I'm trying to see mercenary gameplay.
There's not a job out there I won't take, so long as the pay's good and a crossbow can solve it.
All right, let's take a peek and see what this class is about. He's actually like strafing backwards and... Okay, that's pretty cool. Totally looks like they're playing this guy with a controller or WASD.
I'll take them all down, one bolt at a time.
When thinking about each new class, we really try to think about how we can make combat feel different from all the others. For the mercenary, that difference is the crossbow. A crossbow is fundamentally different than a regular bow because it fires instantly instead of needing to be drawn back. This means that you need immediate feedback. Clicking the fire button should make the character shoot instantly, just like in a shooter. As soon as we experienced that, we realized that there are a lot of design lessons to learn from shooters, and so we fully embraced them.
How is he backpedaling?
In Path of Exile 2, we have crossbows that work like sniper rifles, shotguns, and assault rifles.
Shadowhunter. Okay, I guess I know what my main's gonna be.
But in order to really get shooter-like gameplay, we wanted to go further. In Path of Exile 2, we now support WASD movement.
There it is! WASD, boys! Confirmed.
You can now walk around in any direction independent of aiming. In fact, if this is your preferred method of gameplay, you can use it on any class, regardless of what weapon type you're using.
Damn.
You can change between click to move or WASD at any time.
Kinda seems like it'd be a necessity for this guy.
But Path of Exile 2 is all about interesting combinations of abilities, and this is where ammo skills come in. This is a burst shot crossbow, and right now I have armor-piercing ammo equipped, which makes it very effective when facing a group of enemies, since it pierces right through them.
Bloody horrors!
But there are other ammos too. For a bigger single target, it might be a good idea to switch to incendiary. The more projectiles hit the target, the stronger the ignite, so you'll want to get up nice, close and personal with this one. If you have a bunch of targets running at you, you might want to slow them down. In this case, you could switch to permafrost burst shot. Shooting a bunch of smaller enemies at range will chill them, and potentially even freeze them in place.
This class is already like so freaking complex, dude. Oh my god, it kind of hurts my brain.
Once you have some frozen enemies though, you can switch back to armor piercing. Shooting a frozen enemy with armor piercing burst shot will explode the ice, doing a huge amount of damage to all nearby enemies.
They're doing a great job. It really reminds me of like when they reworked the classes in Trove, where all of the abilities synergize with each other. So you're incentivized to actually use all of your different abilities instead of just focusing on one. That's really, really appreciated in a game like this, because the gameplay can get so stagnant, like with Diablo 4. So that's really nice that they give you a lot to do and a lot to think about while you're engaging in the combat that is otherwise just point and click.
Another feature crossbows have is attachments. This
Oh,
is
dear
a grenade
God.
launcher. As you can see, when I equip it, it appears on the underside of the crossbow. These attachments are just like skill gems, so you effectively get extra skill slots, and you can augment these with support gems, just like regular skills.
Later, mystery. Also, dear God, no comment.
These grenades take a while to explode, so it's a good idea to pair them with some kind of crowd control, like permafrost burst shot.
Is there like Templar gameplay at all?
We have other grenades too though. This attachment is a flash grenade. It does barely any damage, but it does a huge amount of stun. It can be a great opener before you run into combat.
Jesus, dude. It's like playing... Like, each of these classes is so fleshed out, it's like playing a different game.
Now, here's another attachment, an oil grenade. Firing one of these grenades coats the ground and nearby enemies in oil. Oil slows enemies down, so it's another useful crowd control mechanic.
Like, that's so freaking cool. They start the beta on June 7th, and it'll continue
Now,
up to
another thing
launch
with oil
date.
can
Oh,
do is
okay.
be set on fire.
But it's gonna be a closed beta, right, Twine? Like, or are they gonna have an open beta? I hope they do, because I would love to play.
Any burning enemy or explosion will ignite the oil, causing extra burning damage. One of the problems with burst shot crossbows is that each pellet doesn't do much damage individually. This means that if enemies have armor, then it will be very effective preventing that damage.
Dude, like, I was gonna say, like, imagine when this game comes out, like, it's definitely gonna be on some Game of the Year list, but this is gonna be coming out the same year as GTA 6. Like, holy crap.
But thankfully, you can equip an additional crossbow in your second weapon set to deal with
And
the
who
weaknesses
knows, and who knows what else hasn't been announced for 2025 yet.
your primary weapon. This is a rapid shot crossbow. Rapid shot is great for closing on enemies because you can shoot while running. In Path of Exile 2, we now have the ability to allow you to use some skills while moving. Being able to create skills like this opens
Wow.
up a lot of new design space and allows us to really increase the pace of combat.
That's so freaking cool, dude. That's like Remnant.
The armor-piercing version of Rapid Shot slowly erodes a monster's armor. Once the armor is fully broken, you can easily switch back to Burst Shot to deal much more damage.
Only people getting to join are people that have thousands of hours in Path of Exile. And people who spend more than $500 total. Oh, so you're saying I can buy my way into the closed
Being able
beta?
to run while shooting with Rapid Shot is also great for when you want to perform a fighting retreat.
Reload!
I'm not seeing this class roll much.
Using permafrost ammo with Rapid Shot is also useful if you need to retreat. When you shoot the ground, it creates ice crystals. If you draw monsters back over these crystals, they explode, chilling the
Wow.
monsters. It's great if you want to set up a safe zone before pulling the next pack.
That's really cool, man.
Slowing
Yeah.
enemies down can come in handy.
I'm not gonna actually like spend money to get into the beta. I'm just making a joke. But yeah, I know he can roll. I'm just not seeing him roll is all I'm saying. Like, I guess he doesn't need to.
Handy if you want to use the incendiary version of Rapid Shot. Using this skill requires that you charge up a little bit before it fires, but as it continues to heat up, it will do more and more damage.
It's kind of overwhelming taking in all these different classes. No, legit, like, I mean what I said. Each of these classes is so unique and so fleshed out that it's just like, god damn, dude.
Clip size, so you can just keep firing and firing with it. But the other
like this one character alone could be like in its own game.
The useful feature is that when the crossbow is heated up, it adds extra fire damage to any grenade that you launch.
This class seems very technical though, which is kind of pushing me away from it. Just in terms of my own personal fun, it's really cool, but...
Now I've been using explosive grenades here, but it will work equally as well with flash or oil grenades too. If you use it with oil grenades, the oil will catch fire immediately.
Like there's so many different small mechanics that you'd be juggling with this character, dude. Yeah, I heard about that too, Mystery. Some of your stuff from Path of Exile 1 will carry over.
Another crossbow type that you can find is Power Shot. This one works just like a classic sniper rifle. Use it with armor-piercing ammo and it will penetrate armor on targets. So it's a good idea to use when something's really tough.
Back down or die!
That's really cool. You don't have to combo everything, you can just lazy one button. Yeah, but I don't think
there's another interesting interaction.
I don't think it would be optimal enough, GNAC. That's kind of the problem, is it would be like, whoa bro, you're playing the class wrong.
With armor break. If an enemy has its armor broken, then your power shot hits a weak spot and does a huge amount of single target damage, with a bunch of extra stun for good measure.
He's almost dying like each time these enemies hit him, by the way.
Now, the incendiary version of Power Shot is more like a rocket launcher. It does a big explosive blast at a distance.
That's funny. I just don't know which character I would main in this. Probably Warrior, but that's why I want to see some of it, but I guess they didn't show any of it.
One of the really useful features of this version is that you can explode any grenades that happen to be on the ground.
I know, that's what I was thinking too, GNAC, is clearly this guy's end game is going to be the Diablo Demon Hunter. Where he's just spinning around in circles and blasting everything.
This works really well with Incendiary Rapid Shot. I'm going to charge up the heat on my crossbow, shoot out a bunch of grenades, and then start the fireworks with a Power Shot.
That's cool.
The ice version of Power Shot creates frost walls at a distance.
Oh, all your cosmetics carry over into Path of Exile too as well. God damn, that's cool.
This is great for crowd controlling monsters in tight passages.
Ooh, I like that. That's like
have other uses too. If they get
that's like the bone wall from Necromancer. I like that a lot.
destroyed by monsters, then they will explode, doing a small amount of damage.
Block him in!
That's really cool.
Now, remember that burst shot combo with frozen enemies we did earlier? That works with ice walls too. Let's put burst shot back on. Now I can fill up this area with ice walls, then shoot them with armor-piercing burst shot for a huge amount of damage.
Wow. The graphics look really good too. Devs also said there's going to be a crazy amount of content in the beta, like an actual completed game, not an empty shell like most companies are doing. Yeah. I mean, already it looks great.
To face the boss for this area. Let's see how we fare against her with all the skills I've shown you so far.
Oh look, it's Joe's mom. Oh, it's Lunch Lady.
Still the mother! No.
No. Oh dear God.
By the gods!
That's cursed. I like it. What a cool, unique boss, dude. Path of Exile 2 is just an update to Path of Exile 1, if I recall. It's 7 new acts that you can choose to just skip to the new acts when you make a new character. Oh, so does that mean the entirety of Path of Exile is getting a visual overhaul, or is it just going to be in the new area? And then does that mean all existing characters are going to work in here, but their mechanics are going to end up changing? It doesn't seem like it. Like, I don't think these mechanics could translate into Path of Exile 2. I think that was the original plan. But that probably changed somewhere in the design. And it's just its own unique game, I think. If I had to guess. Because that would be weird to try and get something like that to sync up and work.
What is going on in this godforsaken city?
And that's the Mercenary. It feels totally different than anything we've made before, and shows you the range of what's possible in Path of Exile 2.
Well, I'm sorry, we're going right into the next one. Oh my god. It's just the druid from Diablo 4, but better. It even has the tornadoes and the bear transformation and everything. Let's get it. And the wolf ally. Yeah, they literally just ripped this from Diablo 4, but they're like, hey, you know what? Fine, I'll do it myself. And they just made it better. All right, I don't actually want to watch the full video, but goddamn, dude, I'm hyped for this game now.